an old system that I really, really, really liked. I liked the uh, the psychiatrist or psychologist. I think she was a psychiatrist, Karen Horney, who put this together. I think she was from Great Britain, part of the British School of Psychoanalysis, or offshoots of that, if you know the history of all that. And she had a very, very helpful model for people to think about the type of personality they have. Now, before we get into that specifically, I do want to say a little bit about types, because you'll see all sorts of tests out there, whether it's Myers-Briggs or other personality kind of typologies. And a lot of times I'll measure these different dimensions of functioning, and I say, well, this is what you are, and you are this. And one of the dangers of that is that, well, first of all, the Myers-Briggs, that's not even the theory that it came from. The theory that it came from was one of not that you're stuck on something, but that you try to integrate those polarities. So if you're like a thinker, you also got to integrate your feelings. If you're introverted, you also got to go outside sometimes. And so this wholeness, this picture of wholeness, whenever we talk about types, is something we really have to keep in the background or foreground, whichever, and make sure that we are not just like signing off to, it'd be like saying, if you're right-handed, that, you never can open a door with your left hand, because I'm a right-handed person, okay? That's what a little bit of this typology stuff does, and it's problematic in some ways, but it's also helpful because it is a snapshot, and a lot of times there is an enduring, what we find is with certain styles, they do last over time, and they are enduring traits. And so it's good to know your style and what your natural inclination are. Everybody's not glued together the same. We have different gifts, we have different temperaments, we have different genetics, we have different modeling. There's a lot of things that go into this. But we do develop and here's what I would call it, a characteristic style of kind of approaching the world. Okay, so back to Dr. Horney. First came across her in graduate school. And I got to go back and read her again. It's been a while, but here's what she said, and it just makes so much sense. This is decades and decades and decades before we even understood a lot of what we understand about amygdala functioning and fight or flight syndrome and all that kind of stuff. But she said that if you look at people broadly, you have three types. Okay, and what that means is that when we, especially in conflict, or other ways of engaging the world in general, we have three types. The first type is what she called a moving towards type. So this is the person that they just move towards people, right? They just join them. They agree. They're agreeable. That's a great idea. Let me come help you with that. Of course, I'd like to go to. Yes, indeed, I'll do it. And there's kind of like they just go through life with a big yes, right? And they're very, very. They're wonderful, charming people. They're going to move towards you and hug you. They're going to move towards you and love on you. They're just, it's great. Okay, that's number one. Number two. There's a moving against person, okay? Now, the moving against person, their first move is to kind of, no, I disagree. I got a different opinion. No, I don't want to do that. So it's kind of they're a little bit, they more lead with no than yes, or lead more with kind of forcing themselves in, and there's a drive dimension of this. There's an aggressive component to it, not in a negative way, like anger, aggression, but just movement. And they just kind of, they're going to engage the world by pushing it, right? We're going to push against it. It's a moving against type. And then the third one is the moving away type. And that is, a little bit suspect. And if there's conflict or something, then, the way they deal with it is to not run up and join and agree and say, okay, I'll do whatever you want, or not push against it and say, no, you're going to do what I want. But they just kind of move back. Okay. We're going to kind of avoid engaging here. And that's how I find my space and my safety. All right. So in fact, I mean, if you just went down to a local hospital, and go into the nursery where all the newborns are. Sorry, I've got some on my screen. Um, you kind of see them, lying there in their little burrito baskets right after they're born. You got some of them, they're like, ba 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 ba, wow, life's good. I like the color of the walls. This is a nice hospital, and they're just kind of like joining the world. Love it. It's great. Perfect. All right. Right next to him, you got another little baby. It's like, I always say those are the future, attorneys, right? They're ready to litigate. So they're like, "Argh." And then you had some that are kind of in their own little space. They're sort of like in their heads, really. It's not much up there in those early days, but that's where they are. You can kind of see some of this in temperament. You see as kids, they start to grow up. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes trauma kind of freezes us to an overreaction of our style. If we're moving away avoidant type and we run into trauma, then we find out, whoa, I'm going to really move away and avoid, and it becomes a lifestyle. Think if you're a moving towards type and you're traumatized, or you're in a conflict or whatever, then what do? You agree automatically to stop the conflict. We had a caller yesterday who said she set some kind of boundary with her husband, and I think it was her husband. No, was it her mother? I can't remember. But she would end up, they would rail against her, probably a moving against type. Right? They would rail against her when she set the boundary, throw a little temper tantrum, and then she said, and I always end up, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. They're joining. See, that's that moving towards, and the predominant drive becomes to join you and move towards you, even if I have to give up myself, even if I have to give up my position in the argument, even if I have to give up what I want, I'm going to move towards. All right. So, why did I share this with you? Well, um, styles are styles. They are. I mean, they exist, they're real, not negating that. But I believe that we are designed and created not to be, one dimensional, but multi-dimensional, and have a lot of different functions. And the well-rounded person, if you just take that literally, is you might have a predominant way of being in the world, but it doesn't mean that if you have a lot of drive and you're a moving against person, that's a great thing. They accomplish incredible stuff. What a fighter for justice they can be, you know? But it doesn't mean that you can't also integrate the ability to sometimes agree, to move towards someone else's position, to lay down your opinion, or sometimes even walk away from a good fight, move away, be a moving away person for a moment. So what I want you to do is I want you to kind of think of your style, okay? Think of your style. And then as you think of your style, watch how it works. Watch when you're in a conflict or somebody, even a mild disagreement. Watch how quickly that impulse might be to move towards and say, okay, well, it's fine. It doesn't matter. We can do it. It's fine. We can do it your way. That's great if that's true. Is it really fine? Is it fine? Or is that your moving towards style talking? Okay. Or if we want to push back and kind of, get argumentative, well, no. Is it really that bad to join what somebody's suggesting or talking? Or is that just my style talking? Do I need to maybe, sure, what do you want to do? Let's go your way this time. Or sometimes if your inclination is to move away, to kind of take a courageous step and step into the conflict. So your styles are great. Okay. Let's just make sure you have a bigger quiver of arrows to be able to use in life than just one particular default way of handling things because we need flexibility, we need agility, we need adaptability, we need new performance and new behaviors in new settings and in new conflicts and in new situations, even in the same relationship.